Okay, so today we're going to cover some conversations about notes. So this is actually kind of an extension of a conversation that I had with one of my customers about a month ago, and I was like, "Well, where do we store notes?" And I was like, "Well, here, here, and here." So I thought I would go through that, and then I would love to hear some feedback for how people are actually using it in the real world, just not my experiences, because everybody's experiences are different. So, my name is Mitch Milam. I am a free range Dynamics CRM architect. You can reach me at xrmcoaches.com or on Twitter at Mitch Milam. And then finally, there's a LinkedIn link there that you can attach to. So, next week, I have a JavaScript workshop that I'm delivering. It's going to be 4 days of basically 2 hours a day on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week and the week after, and both morning and afternoon sessions. And then 2 weeks from now, we have a Dynamics 365 new feature overview. On the 27th, we have a webinar on using Microsoft Flow. That should be a lot of fun. And then finally, on the 3rd, I'm going to have a webinar discussing the new business rule editor and what has changed as far as business rules go. So that should be interesting as well. So I want to see you guys and girls there for that too. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping here. So, as always, ask questions as you would like to. You can put them in the question window, or if you hold your hand up with the hand icon, you can. I'll open your mic up and you can talk to me. That would be great. So you can either do it as I'm presenting or at the very end. Okay, so all my webinars are on the webinar page. Knowledge Bits are it's a little email service that I have. I'm going to be changing that, by the way. And what I'm going to do, I've been talking to a couple of my people that I talked with, and I'm actually going to do a live design session. So, Knowledge Bits right now, I'm using Click Dimensions to deliver stuff, and it works perfect, except for the fact that there are some limitations for the campaigns, and I want to try to circumvent those. So, I thought I would actually have a couple sessions here, probably at the end of February, maybe. That's I think where I'm going to have time to do that. And redesign Knowledge Bits. And so basically, right now it works perfectly fine, but there's some features that I would like to add, so I'm redesigning it. So I thought I would actually have, instead of having a webinar, it'll probably be in addition to webinars, quite honestly, so it'll be a separate session because not everybody is interested in that kind of thing. And so what I'm going to be doing is actually redesigning Knowledge Bits, the delivery system. Still uses email, still uses Click Dimensions, but there's some features I want to put in. So I thought I would actually have live design sessions and people could tune in if they wanted to. So I've got some learning plans coming up that are already there for like JavaScript and things like that. I'm adding more of those. My deep dive administration book is up on Amazon if you care to get that. And I'm hoping to get plugin development finished by March. I'm only about a year late. So my time frame, it's right on time. Everybody else is like, when are you going to ship this thing? And I've got some other stuff coming up here shortly as soon as I get all the other things done. So any of this stuff looks good to you, then drop me an email and I can give you a status or stuff like that. So as always, thank you for showing up today, and thanks for the encouragement and all the information you guys are giving me back, because it's a lot of fun and a lot of help. So today, really and truly, what we're talking is like, what is a note? We're going to talk about using actual notes or annotations, as they say, versus everything else. And then again, I want to have an open discussion about how everybody's doing things, because everybody does things differently. It depends on the client. It depends on the situation, etc. So the first thing you have to ask is, what exactly is a note? So the first thing everybody's going to say, oh, it's that thing on the record where you go and you add notes and that's it. Well, that was it with version 3 and version 4 of CRM. That's not really the case anymore. So we can have your standard traditional note or annotation, or you can create an activity, or maybe you create a document, or maybe you create a OneNote, or you have a Yammer channel that you have for a record or a customer, or maybe using Office 365 groups. All of these things can be used to track commentary on a record within CRM. So it really kind of depends on the situation, and how you're using. There is not one size fits all, so there's absolutely nothing that you can say that's okay. This is what you need to do because this is how it's done. That's not the case. It used to be kind of the case, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But really and truly, it depends on the situation, on the customer, and on the version of CRM or Dynamics 365 that you're using. So as things have matured within the product, the ability to take notes of various types has enhanced itself. So most of the time when we're talking about notes, what we're actually talking about is a conversation between activities and the annotation. So annotations have a couple of things going for them. One, they're right there in front of you. So they're in the social pane. You can see the history and things like that. It puts a timestamp on it. With later versions of CRM, I think 2015, maybe 13 and above, you can actually edit notes. A long time ago, you could not edit notes, and different things like that. But really and truly, one of the things you have to think about is how you're actually going to be using this data. So recording a note is just in all honesty, a very small technical issue. But the data of how you're using it, or the use case, as they say, is really what determines what you do. In most cases, what I like to do is actually use activities instead of notes. The first and foremost thing is because it categorizes my activity. Okay, if I call somebody on the phone, that is what we in the Dynamics CRM world call a phone call. If I have an appointment, that is an appointment. If I do something for somebody, that is a task, etc. So by categorizing the data, one, it gives me the ability to categorize it. Notes don't have a category. The only thing you can do with notes is actually put something in there like phone call in uppercase, so you can see that it's actually a phone call. Kind of a waste of time, in my opinion. The second thing is notes do not roll up. Notes stay on the record that they were created on. If you're using accounts and you look at the activity list on an account, you will also see all the activities from the contacts and I think the opportunities. Dynamics 365 also enabled a feature that I could not get working, quite honestly, that allows you to actually specify when you create a relationship between two different entities that those activities will actually roll up to the parent. I'm not having a very good demo day today, so most of the stuff I was going to show you, actually, I can't get to work, and I don't know why, so we're just got to roll with that for today. But again, notes do not have categories. Activities can have categories. Just the type of activity is a category. You can add custom fields to activities, but you can't do anything with notes. Searchability is going to depend on the version of CRM. With Dynamics 365, you can search for things that include notes. Other versions of CRM, you weren't so lucky. So maybe that conversation doesn't really apply as much as it used to. So really and truly what you're going to be doing is you're recording a conversation of some type in most cases. So the main points are who, when, what, and why. Are you having just a standard annotation? Is this a thread or a conversation with either the customer or yourself? You know, think about email threads, okay? That is an activity type, as you know, and it will record both sides of the conversation. So is that good enough for you? Or if you have an internal conversation, is there some other mechanism that is more efficient for the conversation than just using email? Okay, and then what I'm talking about there is either office groups or Yammer or something like that. So again, an annotation, which is a note, is tied to a specific record. It can either be text or a document that you can attach to the record. The documents are not editable. So basically, when you attach a document to a record in CRM, it's pretty much read-only. You can't customize it, and again, it's not editable in earlier versions of CRM. Okay, so those things you need to keep in mind. Activities are category specific just by the type of activity. You can tell what it is. It is customizable. The activity pointer entity, which is the summary of all activities, is not customizable, but things like appointment and email and phone call, etc., can be customized. You can add different fields. You can modify the form. You can put JavaScript on the form, etc., business rules and things like that to make it more appropriate for whatever the job you're doing is. Again, the activities roll up from the child to the parent in the case of contacts and opportunities and custom entities if you're using 365. So that's all well and good. Documents, again, you can store them as an annotation or you can store them in SharePoint. So once you have everything connected and set up properly, the SharePoint integration is actually pretty seamless. It just shows up as another related type of entity. SharePoint allows versioning. You can modify the document directly, and all the good stuff that goes with the document management system that SharePoint is. So do you want to store things as documents or are you doing activities or are you doing notes? Again, it really truly depends on the situation. OneNote. I am not a huge OneNote user, but I have other compatriots that's all they do. I mean, that's their primary thing. We have integration with OneNote built into Dynamics CRM, Dynamics 365, and it shows up as just a standard notebook within the system. So that is a possibility. It gives you more robust editing capabilities. It also gives you the ability to share the document, have it in an offline mode if you do things like that with mobile or some things like that. So that's an option. So the problem with this is it's not going to be searchable. I should put that in the note there, I guess, because it's technically outside of the system. Yammer. How many people, can I get a show of hands, how many people actually have used Yammer, have customers using Yammer, or anything of the above? Anybody? Okay, there's a few of you. There's 54 people on the call. Looks like we got 10-ish or so. Okay, that's interesting. Irvin said he uses Microsoft Teams. That's good. That's a new thing. Actually, I didn't add that to the list, but I'll talk about that in a second. Office 365 groups. Now, this is kind of a new thing. It's built into Office 365, of course. It will surface inside of CRM. What you do is you add a solution to Dynamics 365, and that will expose basically another navigation item or an iframe on the record, and it will point to the group system within Office 365. You create a group per record, just like you would a document library within SharePoint. And it allows you to have conversation, store documents, and do all these things both inside and outside of CRM or Dynamics 365. The important thing to remember is, as I've told some of my coworkers, it's like, this is not a copy. This is the real thing. So it's not a copy of groups. It is groups. So I think this is probably a little bit underused, quite honestly, because people just don't know it's there. Because I don't think it's really been heavily publicized. Maybe I'll have a quick webinar on that next month if I get some time. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and show you how it all sets up and things like that, and then I'll show you how it doesn't work on my system because, again, bad demo day. Okay. So one of the things about groups, Irvin mentioned Microsoft Teams, which is a new product they came out with. It's their solution to the Slack application, if you've ever heard of that. And Teams will actually create a group. And then I haven't actually used it to tie into CRM because it's kind of a one-way thing from Teams into groups. It doesn't flow backwards. It just flows forward. So that's the thing. So let's just go look at this. And like I said, we'll see how much it works. Okay, so I am going to go to accounts and let's go through some stuff here. Pick that one. Okay, so again, bad demo day, but thing about this is you have the ability to see all of your notes in one place. So I have notes here. If I want to enter a note, I just type in this is a note in uppercase, and I can't type. Again, I can attach documents to it. I can edit it. It has a timestamp. It has an author. So that's all well and good. Okay. If OneNote was connected properly, I would have a link to a OneNote document there. My activities, I can add a phone call to the account. And then that listed there. If I had contacts for this, let me go to a different account. eDatum. So here I have Renee and Susan, and if I go to my activities, I will see here is an account review that is on the account, and then here is a lunch appointment task to call Renee on Monday, and then here's a phone call I made to Renee, and then here is an opportunity that was closed for the account. So these two are actually on the contact, whereas these two are actually on the account. So this is the roll-up process. This has been inside CRM as far as I can remember, at least to the 3.0 days. A lot of people don't know it's there. Like I said, it rolls up contact and opportunity, I think is what it does. And then with Dynamics 365, it should roll up custom activities or custom entities. So like my friend Juka has an email here. That's not it. I may close the window, but I'll put this in the email I'll send you afterwards. But there's a way to actually get it to work. Again, for some reason my system didn't work, but they added a new property on the actual relationship that allows you to specify that the relationship will actually roll up the activities from that entity onto this record when you have a relationship between two records. So again, Yammer's here. Groups shows up as a main navigation item right here. This one is, like I said, been giving me problems today, but the idea is this is just an iframe, and what it says, okay, I can start a conversation, I can view files, I can use a calendar. So this is a separate calendar that's associated with this specific record, and when I click create, it will actually create the group. Or in probably this case, it will actually give me an error, which it did. Okay, and the idea here is if I go to, I don't have it set up properly. If I went to my mail into Outlook Web Access or even Outlook, on the left-hand navigation, I would actually see the group over there. So anything that happens inside of this, again, this is not a copy of the group data. This is the group data. So that's the important thing to remember. So Carol asked, does OneNote link to a workbook page or a section? I think, Carol, I think it just links to the actual workbook itself. That's, I think, how it works. Okay. So anyway, so we have, again, our standard activities and notes. We have OneNote, we have Yammer, we have groups. So, the idea is not one size fits all. A lot of people still use groups, still use notes to do stuff just like this, because again, it's in chronological order. It actually tells me who did it. And here's a quick way to do stuff. A long time ago, we really and truly discouraged people from using notes because they were really hard to work with. It's very hard to report on notes. Again, you cannot customize them. If they had the ability to add category to notes, everybody would use it. Is the at least everybody that I know of, quite honestly. When you create an attachment as a note, it stores it inside the CRM database normally. So what happens is this will end up taking up database space inside your database. It will account against your quota, and it will generally cause problems because the SQL database is not an efficient place to store these documents. The idea is you would put them in SharePoint. Now there are third-party tools out there that will help you move notes out, attachments out of the notes store and put them into SharePoint, or do it live. So there's a couple different packages out there I've seen, either free or commercial. So that's something to think about if you want to do that to reduce the consumption you have inside your CRM database. The other thing about it that a lot of people don't really understand is documents are stored as blobs or binary large objects. So they're very inefficient as far as a SQL goes. So if you have a lot of documents that you're continuing to add to the system, it will actually end up having a performance impact because it can accidentally, in some cases, detune the database. So if you guys didn't know, SQL is self-tuning, and it's self-tuning because it watches what's happening within itself. And so you see this a lot with actually SharePoint and CRM. In on-premise installations, you'll see a profound difference in performance when you get to the 100 user range or above. If you absolutely separate your SharePoint database server from your CRM database server, and I'm not talking about a different instance, I'm talking about a different physical machine, because what happens is the SQL server will tune itself for transactional data, which is what CRM data is. You got rows and columns. When you have documents, there's these large things that come into the database or get retrieved from the database. Well, if you have bits and pieces of rows and columns and this big thing coming in there, what happens is it doesn't quite understand what to do with it. Whereas if you just have rows and columns going into and out of the database, it can say, oh, well, we're doing this type of stuff. I'm going to put these tables in memory, and I'm going to do these things, and it's going to make everything faster. I've seen, again, profound changes in the way that things work. I had a customer a very long time ago that they had about 20 databases on one physical server, and this is, I think, SQL 7, and they did all kinds of things. They took one database off, which happened to be their e-commerce database that ran their website, put it on its own server, and everything on both sides sped up, profoundly sped up. And all it was one database was heavily transaction-oriented, rows and columns. The other 19 databases were doing everything you can think of. And again, SQL Server couldn't tune itself, so it was a problem. Okay, so a little bit to that bit there, start getting the weeds. So again, where you store your notes is really kind of depend on how you do work. I've got one customer, and they have a lady who does most of their sales stuff, calling, and what she does is she opens up a phone call and she records what happened in the phone call. And then when she opens up a follow-up phone call, she copies the phone call notes from the previous phone call and puts them into the new phone call. And so at the end of the trip, which could be weeks, she has a date and a sentence or paragraph about what happened for every single phone call. And if you look through the phone call records, you see the description field getting larger and larger and larger because it has the same data. Now, personally, that's not the way I would do it. If I have a phone call, I make a phone call, and I just put in there what happened. Left voicemail, that's all there is to it. With CRM these days, you can say, okay, I had a phone call, I left voicemail, and then you click OK, and it closes it out after I enter a description. Okay, so that's pretty simple. As you can see, it says left voicemail was completed today. At what time to this customer here? Okay. So anyway, so again, how you use notes is going to be really specific to how the customer does business. Sometimes we try to change for the good the way that a customer does business, but a lot of times that really just doesn't work. So you just kind of have to adapt to them and just kind of make, I'm not going to say sacrifices, but you just have to make design decisions based on really truly the workflow of the user. Okay, so that's pretty much my experiences so far. I would love to hear what everybody else has to say. Rob asks, is there any way to have roll-up notes? Not without programming. The other thing, and I do not think this has changed, I honestly haven't tried it lately, is when you have a lead, I'll tell you what, let's just go try it right now. If I have a lead, if I have any leads out there, Helen looks like a good candidate. So if I have a note on a lead, and I do that, and I qualify Helen. And I go to her contact record. Oh, shoot. Won't be able to find it. I have got some weird option here on my system, and my contact form is not showing up. But I do not think that you know what, I'm sorry, I know where to go. Unless things have changed and I don't know about it, the notes do not transfer over. So when you have a lead and you create a note on the lead, it will actually stay on that lead. If I go back again, let's try it one more time. I should have done this to start with, sorry. Come on, you can do it. I put an activity, and then I qualify Adam. And go back to, let's see here. Yeah, so as you can see here, the activities are transferred to the contact. So notes are not, activities are. A long time ago in a galaxy far away, I actually wrote what they used to call callouts, which were the predecessor to plugins with CRM version 3 for a customer, that whenever they qualified a lead, I actually copied all the notes from the lead over to the contact so they didn't lose the history. So again, if you use activities, you don't have to do that. It's built into the system. It will move them with it. Okay. Okay, got a few questions here. Sanford says, attachments are a pain to migrate from one CRM instance to another. I did not say that, Sanford. Thank you for mentioning that. Like I said, attachments are just hard to deal with in just period, strictly because of the way that they're attached. You wouldn't think it would be a big deal, but it is. So, yeah, like I said, they're just kind of painful to work with. Let's see. So, as far as I know, Rob, Rob asked about the transfer of the activities. As far as I know, this is a copy. I don't think it is. Maybe it's not. Actually, you know what? It may be on the account. That's interesting. Yeah, I think it's actually a copy. I think if I go back to the original lead, let's see, go back to the account. Let me go find it. Yeah, so that's on the contact. If I go back to see it there, that is interesting. I don't have an originating lead field on the account. I hope I have it on. Okay, this is a screwed up form, so I don't have it. But there's an originating lead field, but I think it's probably the same. Let me go back real quick. It should be a copy. Yeah, it's a copy. Munir says that they use notes for a form of verbose, narrow focus audit history. That's what most people do, quite honestly, because, again, it's right in front of you. It's very concise. It's very easy to add and to view, and people like that. I've actually created custom web pages a long time ago that allowed us to we had an iframe, and what it did is it actually summarized all the activities into a notes-like view. Basically, what the social pane does now, I wrote that for CRM 4.0 for a customer because they wanted that same thing. They didn't want to go to activities. They didn't want to have to look at them one at a time. So what we did is we literally put all the activities here, and then like if it was an email, took like the first 10 lines or 500 characters, whatever it was, and put in the summary. So that worked out pretty well. Let's see. Munir also says searching notes. You can do reports. You can do reports, but it, again, like he says, it is not user friendly, and you can replace categories if you basically train the users and have keywords in the title. Again, that's what I have seen people do. Is they will literally, when they enter a note, they will have I don't know, something like, say, audit, and say something. Okay, so that's how people categorize stuff. Again, it's a training issue. It's not a technical issue, so you just have to make sure you do it. Kanika says they created a custom entity called comments. That would work too. I would probably use, well, it kind of depends. It's a custom activity, so yeah, I could see that. Let's see. Jeffrey's like, how do you set up a group with the record again? Sure, Jeffrey. That basically you just go to, let's see, go to accounts. Basically, the first thing you have to do is you have to go install it. So you open your the Dynamics 365 or CRM Admin Center, and this is CRM Online, of course. And then there's Office 365 groups. You have to install it into the system. And once you install it, you just go to you open the record and go to the navigation for that record. And it's at the top left. So Office 365 groups. And then it will open it up if it sees one. If not, you get the page that we saw that says, hey, you need to create one. Like I said, my page is not working. Something is wrong with my demo system. I don't know what it is, but something is not exactly happy. So I've got to go figure that out, I guess, when I get time. Greg says you can edit the title. That is true. Okay, so this is what groups looks like. Again, I've got some kind of weird security error here. I don't know why, but this is what it looks like. So you have a calendar for this record. Again, this is all inside Office 365. You have conversations. You have documents if you wish. You have members of the group, so you can add people to the group from within this interface here. And again, this just provides exposure inside of Office 365 for different things. Again, these are all things that are built into CRM to a certain degree, but it consolidates them. This is, again, not CRM data. This is 100% outside of CRM. So everything that you do within this has to be inside of this interface. So again, when you do a search, it's not going to find it here because it's physically stored somewhere else. You can put a OneNote notebook in here if you want, or otherwise your standard documents. As you can see, this is actually pointing to a OneDrive instead of a SharePoint. That's also an option that I didn't bring up earlier. We now have the ability with CRM Online to actually point to a OneDrive folder system instead of a SharePoint folder system. So that's an option. Greg said they tend to use notes to capture static point in time, so it does not fit elsewhere on the record. That's pretty much what I've seen. A lot of people, before we had the ability to edit notes, they wanted no one to edit them, is what the deal was. And so they would only put things there that were more or less permanent, just so you could see it all the time. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm going through all my questions here. I got a lot of questions. I think I sorted them weird. Greg also brings up security on notes is very hard to lock down. That is 100% true. So basically, if you go to your settings and security roles, um, Notes has all the standard stuff, but it can be sometimes hard to actually get it applied properly. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. What about let's see, any other? Any other questions we got there? Okay, sorry, I'm trying to figure out my question panel here. I think that's about it. Okay. I think that is about it, unless I missed something. There's a couple things Gloria asked about the tool. I think MS CRM add-ons has a document core pack that will move things, Gloria. So I'll put that in the notes I'll send out later on. Anybody else have anything they want to share with how they're using notes of any type within CRM today? If not, I think that will be. Let's see, did you see mine, Debbie? No, I did not, Debbie, see your question. Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, Debbie says one of our customers uses the description field. I have customers using the description field on the contact to store stuff as well. I do not think that's a good idea, strictly because it's small and you lose some of the historical recording of data, like the time, who did it, other stuff like that. I would rather use a note than the description field. And then also, more important, I would rather use an activity than that as well. Krista says, we also like to create a mechanism to which you add automated, this note has been edited by date. Yeah, that happens. In case notes, absolutely. Let's see, Kanika, I thought I asked that if anybody used Yammer. A handful of people said they use Yammer. I personally don't, but I know other people that use it pretty well. Ben asks, other than a plugin, is there a good way to keep the date timestamp on a note from changing? I don't think so. Again, that's one of those things that, when you close an activity, it mostly can't be edited. I mean, you can do it if you know how and, can, play around with it a bit. But notes are still kind of that way. Again, used to be that was a thing. You wrote a note, you're done. No editing, no nothing. It was that. Good or bad. Activities are, again, what I would use strictly because it gives you more granular control, more customization. Really, truly, the categorization of the thing is what I really look at. Because I can't tell you how many in my history, how many reports I have written that summarized how many phone calls were made, how many appointments were scheduled, how many appointments were completed, how many phone calls were made, how many voicemails were left, that kind of thing. So, when you do activities, you have much better granular control of those type of things. Let's see what else. I think that is it. Okay. Oh, is that it? Sorry. I am having just technical issues. I'm just going to go home and take a nap is what I'm going to do. Okay, just so you know. Okay, everybody, I really appreciate you taking the time today. The recording will be up later today, and I'll put in all the notes and stuff like that. Oh, it is Friday the 13th. Thanks for Stanford for telling me that. So yeah. So anyway, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Thanks a lot, guys.